Hello, everybody. If you want to read all the story's content in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. Short story 717, The Red Lift. Upper beginner. Sarah worked on the 25th floor of a tall office building. Every day she used the old red lift to go up and down. The lift was slow and made strange noises, but it always worked. One rainy evening, Sarah stayed late at the office. She was alone. At 9 o'clock, she pressed the button. The red lift came. The doors opened with a loud scream of metal. She stepped inside and pressed G for ground floor. The doors closed. The lift went down, down, down. But it did not stop at the ground floor. It kept going. Sarah looked at the numbers. 1, G, then B1, B2, B3. The light inside started to flash red. The air became very cold. The lift stopped at B13. There was no B13 in the building. The doors opened slowly. Outside was only darkness and the smell of wet earth. Sarah heard water dripping and low voices far away. She pressed the close button many times. Nothing happened. A hand, white, wet and very cold, came from the dark and touched the floor of the lift. Then another hand. Then a face with no eyes looked in. Sarah screamed. She kicked the hands. She pressed every button. Suddenly, the lift moved up fast. The doors closed just before the thing could enter. Up, up, up. It stopped at the 25th floor again. The doors opened. Sarah ran out to her office. She locked the door and called security. The security man came. "Are you okay?" he asked. Sarah told him everything. He smiled. "There is no B13, he said. "And look, the lift is not red, it is silver. The red lift was removed 10 years ago after a woman disappeared inside it." Sarah turned and looked down the corridor. The red lift was waiting. Doors open, light flashing red. She never took the lift again. Every day she walked down 25 floors. And every night when the building was empty, people say the red lift still travels between floors that do not exist, waiting for the next person who presses the button after dark. Vocabulary notes. Flash, verb, meaning to shine brightly on and off very quickly. Example, the light inside started to flash red. Example sentence, the police car lights flash blue and red in the dark. Similar words, flicker, blink, sparkle, twinkle. Scream, noun or verb, meaning a very loud high sound, often from fear or pain. The doors made a sound like a scream. Example, the doors opened with a loud scream of metal. Example sentence, she screamed when she saw the ghost. Similar words, shriek, yell, screech, howl for metal sound. Drip, verb noun, meaning when water falls in small drops, the sound of water falling. Example, Sarah heard water dripping. Example sentence, rain was dripping from the roof all night. Similar words, drop, leak, trickle, ooze. Press, verb, meaning to push something, usually a button, firmly. Example, she pressed the button. She pressed G for ground floor. Example sentence, press the green button to start the machine. Similar words, push, click, tap, hit a button. Security, noun, meaning the people or department that keep a building safe, a security guard. Example, she called security The security man came. Example sentence. If you lose your key card, go to security on the ground floor. Similar words. Guard, watchman, caretaker, porter in a building. Bonus useful phrase. After dark. Meaning, after the sun has gone down, at night when it is dark. Example, waiting for the next person who presses the button after dark. Example sentence, the park closes after dark because it is not safe. Similar expressions, at night, in the dark, when night falls. Story written by Grok 4.1. Image created by Grok 4.1. To read all the story's content in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. CC Music, Drifting at 432 Hz, Unicorn Heads.
All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a really chilling short story. It's called The Red Lift. So what if your daily routine, the one you do on autopilot, suddenly took a terrifying turn? That's the simple question at the heart of this story. We're going to see how something as totally normal as an elevator ride can turn into, well, an absolute nightmare. All the best horror stories, they start out with things being completely normal, right? And this one is no exception. So let's meet our protagonist, Sarah. She works way up on the 25th floor of this big office building. And every single day, she takes this old red lift to get there. It's kind of slow, makes some creaks and groans. You know the type, but it always gets the job done. It's just background noise in her life, something she never gives a second thought. But of course, on this one particular night, that comfortable, familiar routine is about to be, well, completely shattered. Okay, picture this. It's late. It's 9 p.m. Sarah's the only one left in the whole office. So she does what she always does, presses the button, and the red lift arrives. She steps inside, hits G for the ground floor, probably already thinking about what she's going to have for dinner. Totally normal. And right here, this is the very first sign that something is not right. The story doesn't just say the lift was noisy. No, it says the doors opened with a scream of metal. Think about that word, a scream. It's not just a sound, it's a sound of pain, of something violent. It instantly turns this machine into something monstrous. So the lift starts going down, and Sarah's watching the numbers light up. It passes floor 1, but then it keeps going. It doesn't stop at the ground floor. It just descends. Down, down, past the basement levels she knows, and deeper into a part of the building she had no idea was even there. And then it stops. This is the big turning point. The display doesn't show a normal basement level. It shows B13. B13. I mean, come on, that's a floor that just shouldn't exist. And that number, 13, it's a classic, right? A total giveaway that we've crossed over into something supernatural. And this is where the story gets really clever, because it starts attacking all of your senses. First, the light inside starts flashing red, like a big visual alarm bell. Then the air gets icy cold. You can just feel it. And the smell? It's like wet earth, like a freshly dug grave or something. And you can hear water dripping somewhere in the darkness. And if all that wasn't enough, then she hears low voices. So the doors slide open, and it's just pitch black outside. And then, out of that darkness, the horror starts to take physical form. First, a white, wet hand reaches in, then another. And then, a face emerges from the black, a face with no eyes. Just a classic, absolutely bone-chilling ghost story moment right there. Okay, so Sarah understandably freaks out. She's mashing the buttons, trying to get the doors to close, and finally they do, and the lift just rockets back up. But getting out of that lift, that's not the end of the story. Oh no, the real, impossible truth is just about to hit her. So the security guard finds her, and she's obviously terrified. She tells him what happened about the red lift, about floor B13, and the guard just looks at her, confused. He tells her two things that just don't make any sense. One, the lift in this building is silver, not red. And two, there is no B13. There's no 13th basement. This is the huge twist, this total contradiction of reality. And then the guard drops the bombshell. He says, yeah, there was a red lift, but we had it removed 10 years ago after a woman disappeared inside it. Chills, right? So Sarah wasn't in a broken elevator. She was riding in a ghost. Okay, so let's break this down a little. How does a story this short pack such a punch? It all comes down to the language, really. The specific words the author chose are just perfect for building that sense of fear. Let's look at the word flash, for example. A light can just flicker, right, or blink. But flash? That implies something urgent. It's an alarm, a warning signal. It immediately gives you this sense of panic, that something is seriously, fundamentally wrong. So when the story says the light flashed red, our brains immediately go to emergency lights, to danger. The color red plus that flashing motion basically turns the entire elevator car into a giant, silent warning siren. And we talked about this one before, but it's so good we have to look at it again. The word scream. Describing a metal sound as a scream is just brilliant personification. It gives this machine a voice, and it's not a happy voice. It's a voice of pain, or maybe even malice. It literally turns the lift into a monster. Yeah, that single line makes the whole thing feel alive. It's not just a faulty machine anymore, it's a living creature. Maybe it's in pain, or maybe it's trying to scare her. Either way, it sets this incredibly creepy tone from the second those doors open. And then there's the sound of dripping water. It's so simple, right? But it's so effective for creating atmosphere. What does that sound make you think of? A cold, damp, forgotten place, like a cave or a sewer or a tomb. It just screams loneliness and decay. What that detail does so well is it emphasizes how quiet and still everything else is on floor B13. It's pitch black, totally silent, except for that one slow, steady drip. It just makes you feel how alone Sarah is and how dead this place feels. And last but not least, let's talk about the phrase after dark. This is like Ghost Story 101, isn't it? It sets the stage. It's the time when the rules change, when the line between our world and whatever's next gets a little blurry. It's when the spooky stuff happens. What I think makes this story so effective is that it doesn't just end with, "Phew, Sarah escaped." Her horrifying experience transforms into something bigger. It becomes a legend, a modern ghost story that people in that building probably whisper about. And that final line is just perfect. It completely reframes the whole thing. It wasn't just a one-time event that happened to Sarah. Nope. It's an ongoing threat. The red lift is still out there, they say, still traveling those non-existent floors, just waiting for the next person to work late. And that's really the genius of it, isn't it? It leaves you with this final, haunting idea. It takes something we do every day without thinking, riding an elevator, and makes it terrifying. So, yeah, next time you're alone in a lift late at night, you might just think of Sarah.